Hey everybody, I'm taking roll. We still have about 6, 7 minutes. Um, and Wendy's here. She just stepped out of the room for a second. But we're excited to have you tonight. Did somebody ask me a question? Where is everybody? Hello, everybody. It's 5:30. How are y'all doing? Someone unmute and tell me how class was on Saturday afternoon. I'm not sure who taught. Who was that saying? Was it good?
Me, I was saying long, but yeah.
Oh, Saturday was probably a super long day. Like, I feel for y'all. And now we kind of know how the kids are doing 6 hours of school online and Zoom, right? Poor things. It breaks my heart. Okay. So just a reminder, I've taken roll. You need to have your cameras on so I can see your beautiful faces. It's my job to make sure that you're paying attention. Aren't I lucky? There are a couple people on here that are just auditing the class, so they will not have their cameras on because they are not getting credit. Or they can turn on if they want, but that's the case with that. So let me see, I'm doing roll. And remember, if you have to run to the restroom or something, just get up, do it quickly, come right back, as if you were sitting in a classroom. If I do not call your name, I've already got you marked down. I'm just going to call the people that I have not seen yet. Bonnie, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Enid? Izzy? Cassandra? Keisha? Layla?
I'm here.
Who was that? Oh, Keisha. Okay, Layla? Luis? Olga? Okay. Tatiana?
I'm here.
Yeah. Zandra? Elise? Flanagan?
Zandra's actually in the hospital.
Oh no. Is she okay?
She had to get surgery, but she's okay.
Okay,
But
good.
she is in the hospital.
Okay. Well, if she needs to make up the classes and get the credit next time we do it, she can do that. So let her know not to worry.
Okay, thank you. I'll tell her.
Tiara, Ariel. Okay.
Here, I'm sorry. I hear, but I was running. Sorry.
No, who?
Olga.
Tatiana? Olga. Olga, will you change your name on your
Oh yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's just because I have to do the screenshots and they'll want to see your name that you're present. They match up. Oh, there's Ariel. They match up my attendance sheet.
You did get mine.
I just renamed it.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
Tatiana, yes, I got you. Okay. All right. I'm going to introduce you to Wendy, and while you guys are saying hi to Wendy, I'm going to take screenshots, and then I'll let her take over. This is Wendy Wasley. She has been here at the Cityside office for a long time. She's one of our very top producing agents, and she is a part of our ALC, and she's our favorite teacher because she's the best.
Thank you, Jill. Hi, everybody. All right. So congratulations on being here today. That means you are going to be starting your career in real estate, or maybe this is just a refresher course. This is my favorite class to teach, price to sell. Working with the CMAs, that is my passion. So hopefully we can have a lot of fun tonight. Again, having a class at night is it's hard. So I guess everybody's got their coffee, tea, energy drink, or whatever, or maybe your dinner. So no worries. You can eat and drink at the same time as you participate. But participating, I need you to ask questions. Let me know how you're doing, because a lot of these issues with pricing to sell is based on examples of what you're experiencing. Because with it, using a CMA could be used for relationships with your buyers as well as sellers, or just when you're showing homes. So just remember that it's important to be able to get those details down using that CMA for all your clients, okay? So starting the course, we always talk about contacts. How's everybody doing with adding contacts to your database? Good? All right, so who's got over 100 contacts in your database? 50? Okay, I see 1, I see 2, I see 3. 4, yes. So it's really, really important that every single day we think about putting new contacts in our database, because really our database is everything. That's what's going to drive our business month after month after month. That's how you're going to get your referrals, new business. Your database is everything. So, quick question. Has everybody gone into their phone and transferred your contacts in your phone to your database? If you haven't, that's a big, I know that a lot of y'all have hundreds of contacts in your phone. How about LinkedIn? Who's on LinkedIn? Okay, I see a lot of y'all are. So, you can export your contacts in LinkedIn to your database. Okay, so right now, if I asked you, would you have by the end of the week over 100 contacts in your database? Is everybody going to say yes? Yes. So so please really do yourself a big favor. Really concentrate. This is the time of the year. In the fall, the winter months, as we get into the January, even actually January last year and the year before, we had a really, really strong January, February in business. But for right now, at least in December, let's really concentrate on perfecting what we have in our database. Get into Command, create those contacts, get those emails out to those people that are in your database, and say who you are and what you're doing. I just brought a new agent in, a very good friend of mine, a client of mine, a neighbor of mine, and he basically already has sent emails to everybody in his database, just introducing himself to the business. And hopefully that through that communication, he's gonna have a lot of referrals, because a lot of people are now thinking, oh my gosh, he's now a real estate agent. I've known him for years, and yes, if I'm interested in selling, buying, or investing, I'm going to use him. And that's what you want to do. Take those contacts, introduce yourself to those people, those contacts through an email. The other thing that we need to be doing right now, every single day or every week, think about note cards. Who's done a note card? Oh, good. I see lots of hands. Okay, so when was the last time anybody got a card in the mail? Can y'all think about last time that you received a card in the mail? Birthday card, holiday card. Bonnie, what did you receive? We're gonna
I just remembered that the very first Christmas card I received this season was from my mortgage broker. The guy who did my mortgage for my current house.
But it made you smile, didn't it?
It was nice. I liked it.
Yeah. Yep. So there's so many people, and there's so many other agents out there that really don't care about sending note cards out, or holiday cards, or birthday cards. But when somebody receives a card like that, that means that you spent the time getting their information, writing on the card, I hope you have a wonderful birthday, or happy holidays, happy new year, and you took the time to get their address, put your own address on the card, get a stamp, and send it out. So when you do receive a note card or a card of any type, that is going to separate you from everyone else. I had a listing that next door, the guy stopped me as I was putting the sign up on my new listing, and he says, I think I'm going to be interested for your next customer in selling a home in the neighborhood. I'll watch how fast you sell my neighbor's house. So when we were just about to go into closing, because we sold the house next door, I sent him a note card to he and his wife, and put a little Starbucks card in. And they immediately, as soon as they received it, immediately I got a text saying, thank you so much for that card and the Starbucks gift card. That really made a difference. And we would love to talk to you about listing our house. And guess what? Next month, I'm going to be listing their house. So it's that simple that, again, it makes a difference. And don't think it doesn't, because it really does put a different frame mind into their heads, thinking she or he really cares enough about me and my home to be able to reach out through a card and do, those extra steps. So get your note cards, because note cards can be given out. It doesn't have to be a holiday card. It doesn't have to be a birthday card. It could just be, thank you, it was great seeing you. Or if you had a luncheon with a neighbor, and maybe not so much nowadays, but in the future, when we can have lunch with our neighbors or our friends, just send them a little note card. So we want to make sure that you buy note cards that reflect you. Okay, either it's funny or it's bright and cheery. Everybody knows you buy a certain color, a certain flower. That's the type of note card that you want to buy. So you can go online and find bulk note cards, and that's, again, to reflect who you are. Okay. All right, so is everybody going to get note cards going into the end of the week and into next week? Yes, we are. Have fun with them. Okay. And how many phone calls have you made? Are you getting used to calling your contacts? I know it's hard at first, only at first. But if you get through, it's just like tying your shoe when you're a kid. It was so hard to tie your shoe, or anything, a job, or how to bake, or whatever it may be, or drive a car. It's going to be difficult at first. But get used to, and just, you can role play, or you can do scripts at home. I mean, we're kind of at home a lot these days. So take advantage of all the scripts that we have for you, and get used to it. And just, if you have a pet, just talk to your pet, and treat them as your, as a new client. And that's what I did when I was learning how to do a listing presentation. I talked to my cats. Again, you've got to keep reiterating the same presentation, or welcoming, or introducing yourself and what you can do for them. And again, it will come naturally as you keep saying those words over and over in the scripts. Okay. But of course, at the very beginning, it is a little more challenging, but it'll be a piece of cake later on. All right, so has anybody gone out to any open houses? I know we don't do as many as we used to, but has anybody gone to open houses over the last week or two? 1, 2, 3. All right, so why did you go to the open house? Was it because you had a buyer, or you wanted to just see that house? Why did you go?
So I actually went and shadowed an open house just so I would be familiar with how to host one, so that I could start hosting for other agents. I'm at Cityside, so start hosting for other agents. So I was able to shadow someone and kind of see from beginning to end how it works, and actually talk and meet with people who are interested in buying, some who had agents already and some who didn't.
Great. So do you feel a little more confident?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I want to shadow one more, and then I think I'll be able to actually host my own, but I feel so much better about it, more confident, and like I fully understand what it looks like and how to execute. Okay, great. Who else wants to share their experience?
My husband's a realtor, so.
Hey, Audra.
Hey, my husband's a realtor, so from time to time I'll go with him and assist or shadow him in the same way.
Good. Well, the more that you practice and listen to that listing agent who is conducting the open house, the more that you'll feel comfortable how your open house should function. It's again, and the CMA that we're going to be working with, and I'm going to be teaching you about, it's great to have a CMA when you go to an open house or when you're conducting your open house, because the more knowledge you have about the property, the more that you're going to get those interested buyers or agents. Because a lot of times agents don't do their CMAs. They don't look at the comps before they go to an open house. So if you share with them the pricing and what's happening in the neighborhood or neighborhoods right down the street, then they're going to be more confident that that price that you have it listed at is accurate. And if they do come with an offer, they're going to come in at that pricing because you have already shared with them the details about the comps. Okay. So yes, as many open houses as you can go to, challenge and talk to the agent who's hosting. We used to have a lot of caravans, agent caravans, and we really don't have those anymore. A few agents, I see that I'll get invitations. So periodically I'll still go wearing a mask. But if you can go to agent caravans, go ahead and head out. Keep your distance, wear your mask. But it's great to see what's happening, what's new out there with those agent caravans. Okay. Hopefully in the new year, 2021, we'll see more agent caravans. All right. So has anybody done a CMA? Comparative market analysis.
Jennifer.
Not too many. Okay, Jennifer, you have. So how long did it take you, Jennifer, to do your first CMA? Oh, you're on. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
It was really easy. I did it through Remine. Did I use Remine or Matrix? Which one? Oh, Cloud. No, Cloud. I did the Cloud CMA.
Okay.
And it was very easy. I do have a buyer for January. So I've been doing some CMAs for her just for a buyer, like the buyer tour that you can do. And it's so user friendly. It's really easy to do.
Yeah. It will take you a little bit longer at first until you get a little more down packed of what to look for, especially when you have a property or a couple properties that you're showing your buyer or your clients to. It may be a little more challenging because the comps are not going to be out there. So you have to kind of go, a couple miles in distance or go, 5 or 10 miles out. If you're in Villa Rica or Douglasville, or if you're in Cherokee County, sometimes it's a little more challenging. But again, with the CMAs, start doing a CMA just on your own home or your neighbor's home, your family's home. Keep doing those CMAs constantly because that is the only way for you to really get confident in your abilities to pull the CMA, and you'll feel comfortable explaining the CMA to your seller as well as your buyers. Okay.
Also, just one last thing. I took the FMLS offers a Cloud CMA class online for free, and I took that, and that was really helpful too.
Oh, good. Well, again, for most of y'all, once you do your first couple, they're going to be kind of addictive. You'll keep doing them because everybody out there, including the buyers, they'll say when you start showing them homes, what are the comps? The buyers are very intelligent. Of course, our sellers are, but our buyers are now very intelligent. They're starting to say, have you done the comps? Are the homes that we're seeing today, are those prices accurate? Could I offer the house that we're going to look at first, and it's $300,000? Is it worth $300,000? What do the comps say? So again, it's not just tonight. We're going to be talking about the seller, but these comps and the CMAs are really for everyone. Okay. All right, so let's kind of get started a little bit. So has anybody gone on a listing appointment? Okay, so I see one, two.
Audra, Janet.
Hopefully there's several of y'all. So what happened? I'm gonna call on Janet. Janet's Benford. When was
Yes, ma'am.
your listing appointment?
It was really good. Met with the sellers. This was the first time that I had to help the sellers find another property. Stop being rude. And it was kind of different because I was expecting to go in and just talk about selling their home. But we talked about them buying a home as well. But what I first started out with was just getting them to talk to me. Tell me what you love most about your home. May I tour your home? And they kind of knew what to expect as well because we talked about this over the phone. So when I got there, they knew what we would be talking about. But it went pretty good. Covered the CMA, gave them a copy, and we reviewed it section by section.
And it really very simple, wasn't it? It was very structured. Sorry, you're trying to balance family and Zoom.
Yes, I am.
I'll click on you again, Janet. But yeah, when you do a listing presentation, that's what we're going to learn tonight is it's very structured. You don't have to deviate. It's like a script. Because again, the seller wants certain information. And you have to follow that kind of that script that and you're going to pull it all together and it's going to make sense to that seller. If you get off on a tangent a little bit, it's going to be a little more difficult for them to get pulled back in and to understand. And you may be up against several other agents. So they may be interviewing several agents to list their home. So you definitely want to make sure that all the pertinent information is shared with the sellers at that time so you can win the listing. I always want everyone to just be as strong and that D personality comes through during that listing presentation. And talking about D personality, has anybody taken the personality test? Are you a D, C, S, I? Has anybody taken the test? A lot of different companies.
I score high on yellow. I can't remember which one yellow is. I think it is D though.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody tonight. Guess what? Y'all are all Ds. Y'all are all going to be Ds. I don't care what you are right now, what you thought you are now. When you leave our Ignite class tonight, you all are all going to be Ds. You're going to have so much confidence in yourself. You know what to pull. You know how to explain the CMA. You know how to walk through that front door to meet up with the sellers, and you're going to get that listing no matter what. So don't think of anything else other than you are the D. You basically will be running the meeting, and you will make a just such an impression to those sellers that there's no way in the world they're going to choose anybody else but you. Okay, does everybody want to be the D? Yes. Okay. All right, so let's kind of start with page 10. So has everybody got their manual?
I put it in the chat.
All right, so it's in the chat. So basically it starts with getting your head in the game. It talks about helping sellers determine the correct price for their property as part of the value you bring to them. Pricing can be easy with a properly prepared comparative market analysis, which we call a CMA. Presenting your CMA and discussing pricing with the seller are the two major components of the listing appointment. So presenting the CMA that you have really taken a lot of doesn't have to be long hours, but it could at first, depending on the property. And then discussing the pricing with the seller. Those are the two important components of the listing presentation. Okay, that's important, and that's at like 50 to 60% of the entire presentation. Okay, so who would like to read, starting with pricing is a process? Who wants to read it? Yo.
I'll read it.
Yay, thank you.
Pricing is a process. Learning to do it well also requires knowing pricing strategies based on the principles that drive markets. It also requires knowing pricing tactics, building and presenting a comparative market analysis, and the
Whoops. Oh, we lost you.
Was that it? I thought
Do me a favor, Selena, go ahead and read right above the brain.
Okay.
You
will use your knowledge and expertise. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You will use your knowledge and expertise in pricing and presentation to win the seller's agreement on the list price, a price that will get their home sold.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So one little part, a price that will get their home sold. That is so very important to remember. You can come up with lots of different prices. The sellers can come up with a lot of different or the same prices for their home, but what's going to win and be the final is the price that will get their home sold, okay? And that's what we have to be the expert in finding that particular price. Okay, so on page 11, it says make it happen, pricing. Again, pricing is one of the absolutely essential real estate success skills. To become a pricing master, you must understand how the market works, local market conditions, and the pricing criteria. So what type of market are we in? Are we in the seller's market or the buyer's market?
Sellers.
Buyer's market.
Sellers market.
Sellers.
We're still
Seller's market.
Definitely.
still in the seller's market. We will, and what is basically kind of portrayed to us in a lot of the articles so far up and through last week, they're still anticipating 2021, or at least for the first 6 months, to be still a seller's market. Because of the inventory is so low, there's a lot of buyers out there. So the sellers do feel that they can win and price it a little higher, and they're going to get a lot more money that they anticipated, or a lot more money that they originally had purchased the home for if they had maybe purchased it 2 to 3 years ago. So again, that all kind of shoots toward being that seller's market. And we have so many buyers out there. The interest rates are still low. They're going to be still low. Again, their prediction is still going to be around 6 more months. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as you go into your listing presentation. Just share that with your seller that, again, we're in the seller's market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that y'all can overprice the home. We still have to keep it within, because we don't want anything to happen like what happened in 2008. Things got out of hand and pricing just went sky high and things just kind of crumbled. So we want to keep it very balanced. We want to, and again, this whole year, 2020, was supposed to have been more of a balanced year of pricing, but unfortunately, with the pandemic, it kind of threw things in different directions. So again, for the next 6 months, we still think interest rates are going to be low. The buyers are going to be in mass entrance into the business for that new home. They're going to upsize, they're going to downsize. So again, that's your seller's market. All right, so page 12, local market conditions. So we look at, I just talked about inventory. The days on market, we are probably like 21 days on the market. So it's, before it was like a year ago, I think it was like 42 days on the market before they went under contract. Now it's like 21 days. Especially if it's in a price point probably like below 350. That's where the homes are just, there's multiple offers. and things are really, really crazy. We also look at price per square foot, and then we look at the local landscape. So local landscape. So for those that are in the Smyrna, Cobb County area, what did the Brave Stadium do for us? Who can tell everybody what did the Brave? Yeah, Anthony, it went crazy. And starting in 2019, we in Smyrna and even Marietta or West Cobb, East Cobb, I think total Cobb, saw a huge increase in pricing, where we anticipated pricing being below 3% over the previous year in pricing. We started seeing 3, 4, 5, and 6, and even 7%. Last year, or 2020, we saw probably an even between probably 3 and 5%. Now, if it was downtown Smyrna Village, we saw anywhere from 8 and 9% increase. It's crazy. So going into 2021, they're predicting probably anywhere between 2 and 5%. Again, that's in an area where there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of movement of people coming in. It's close to where people can live, work, shop, eat, walk, parks. That is really crucial. And if you see a lot of new development, that's what the builders are doing. They're trying to get more of that all family, all being around things that they can enjoy, not having to get into their car. Even the South Side, Clayton County, Fairburn area, I don't know, even Gwinnett. Gwinnett, 5 years ago, we couldn't get a house sold in Gwinnett. Last year, Gwinnett County was unbelievable with the pricing. The pricing all went up. So again, wherever you work, wherever your clients are, you just need to make sure that you're looking about what's been going on. Google pricing. You can Google new construction, new developments. It's all going to tell you what's happening in those particular areas. Okay, I can't even think of even an area of all the counties that are not doing well. Even downtown Atlanta, Grove Park, Collier Heights, all those areas are beginning to turn around and become extremely desirable. So if you're working with a investor, those are some of the areas that you can work with and get an understanding. But if you do have investors, you really do have to know your comps. You have to really read into what's happening before they can really partner with you. But they're a lot of fun to work with. Okay, so still on page 12. Again, a little bit pricing criteria. I think everybody knows what goes into pricing. It's your location, what we just talked about. It's the size of the home. It's the amenities within that subdivision, or it could be just some kind of amenities in the location. Walkable to parks and restaurants and businesses and shops. And then the condition. So who can tell me of all those 4 location, size, amenities, and condition factors, what's the most important? What's going to really change the pricing pretty drastically from one home?
Location.
Sorry?
Location.
Condition. Condition, and then it goes to location. Because if you just think, if you have a house in a great location, in a subdivision, but that one house that you're going to list hasn't been updated, has not been maintained, maybe it's been a rental for a while. That pricing, that whole scenario of how you can price the home and make that seller understand the factors that go into the pricing for that particular home, it's all about the condition. So if they have not maintained it, it cannot be the same as the house next door that's been updated, new roof, new appliances, new paint, new landscaping. new driveway. So the condition is really important. And we'll talk more about the condition a little later tonight. Okay. So on page 15, this is there's a script, and I want y'all to memorize this script, okay? This is one of the scripts that is so very important. But it says, know what the seller and you can and can't control. So an important part of the pricing process is to help your sellers understand that agents and sellers do not determine the purchase price of their home. Instead, the market determines the price. So really the market or / the buyers. So who wants to read the script? Starting with Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Rachel?
Read it.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, some of the things you can control during the selling process are the condition of your property, the availability of your home for showings, and your positioning in the market. In the end, value is determined solely by what a buyer is willing to pay in today's market, based on comparing your home to others currently on the market for sale. I don't determine value, and neither do you. The market determines value. Does this make sense?
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. So this is so important to memorize, okay? And I always like the last 4 words. Does this make sense? So throughout your listing presentation, there's a lot of times where you're talking to your sellers, and you want to end the conversation with, does this make sense? Okay, because you want their agreement. You want them to be able to see, and if they can't, and when you say, does this make sense? And they say that you've got to, you look into their face and they've got a concern and their eyebrow goes up, that means they're not fully understanding what you're saying. So you need to make sure that they understand. Because again, when we are in a seller's market, again, the sellers a lot of times thinks they could control that pricing. They can get whatever they want. And we're going to go through some examples tonight where no, they can't. Sometimes they can, but a lot of times they cannot. So you just really want to make sure that they're educated, they understand how the pricings should be set and who makes that decision on how their house gets sold. Okay, so number 3 says understand the window of opportunity. The best chance to sell a home is when it first comes on the market. So that's why it's important, again, to make sure that y'all come up in agreement with the right price. The first few weeks are make or break time for most listings. Now, the only time, and I always want to share this, when we go into holidays, sometimes it's not the best time to list a home. So who can tell me what's the worst holiday? Come on, somebody.
Christmas.
What did you say?
Christmas.
Nope.
Thanksgiving.
What'd you say?
Halloween.
What?
Thanksgiving.
Nope.
July 4th.
Years.
Nope.
4th of July.
Valentine's Day.
Halloween.
All right, so I'm gonna.
Labor Day.
We're all over the board. Y'all didn't pick Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend is the worst. It's whenever everybody starts leaving because the children are out of school. They have vacation on their minds and they are buzzing out. They have no desire to look at homes, talk to anybody about selling or buying a home. They are going to normally the beach. Okay. The second worst is 4th of July. And I would probably say after that is probably Labor Day. Easter, actually, you sometimes write contracts on Easter. I have in the past, which I hate, but I did. or I was going to lose that home for my client. Thanksgiving, Christmas, you don't have a full amount of people coming and going, but there's a lot of thought process going on. It may not be on those particular days, but it would be before and after. I actually had a agent on duty appointment meeting with somebody. She came in the day before Thanksgiving. So we talked for a couple of hours the day before Thanksgiving, and then we met up on that Sunday after Thanksgiving. Okay. But Memorial Day, please, if you get a new listing, do not start that listing around Memorial Day. You just, again, because what it's going to do is, as we just talked about, the first 2 weeks, as soon as you list that property, that's the most important time. And if you lose days because it's during a holiday, that just sets back everything. Okay. So make sure that you explain that to your seller. Because again, you want to be able to get that house under contract as soon as possible. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's go to page 16. And under 5, it says, don't chase the market. Price ahead of it. So that just really kind of means don't price that home so high that you're going to be you're ahead of it and you're chasing it, and then you're going to have to back up a little bit. So your ability to be knowledgeable of the current market pays off when it comes to any kind of shifting market, whether shifting up, appreciating, or shifting down, depreciating, even in a stable market. So in a rising market, sellers who feel time is on their side may price above the current market and hope the market will catch up and bring them the price that they want, provided the market continues to rise. So sellers who want to cash in on improving prices in rising markets are still well advised to price the market to get a sale now and move on with their lives. Okay, so this is going to be probably one of your other biggest challenges. A lot of sellers do want to, their pricing estimate really is on the high side. They want to get the most. It could be because they purchased the home a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and they need the extra equity to buy a new home. Okay. Or they just want more money to put away for savings or buy a bigger home. Okay. So you really have to discuss with those sellers the very beginning, what's your motivation? What is motivating you to sell your home? Is it that you're relocating? Is it that you are upsizing or downsizing in a home? Is it that you've got a new job and you're relocating because of that job? Your family is growing, so you do need to upsize. Or you're really more interested in finding a new location for your growing children that need different location for schools. You really have to find, and that's where you get a little more personal. Your D personality comes down a little bit. You get really one-on-one with the sellers to understand their motivation. But when they start talking just high pricing, after you've done your comps, done your homework, and your pricing is quite off from your sellers, then you're going to have to pull them back in and try to get them to understand and see what's motivating them. Don't they want to get there? Isn't it worth pricing their home just a little more down to where the market is seeing it as the right price? And then they can move on and enjoy their new adventure. So that's a little harder for a lot of people to work through with their sellers.
So question.
Yes.
There's the appraisal piece.
Yes.
And I guess I'm trying to understand how many people are willing to pay more for a home that doesn't appraise. So even if the seller, even in this kind of market where, or you're working with a seller who wants to bump the price up or ask more for it, wouldn't the appraisal play a part in that as
Oh,
well?
yes. It will, and Audra, I'm glad you brought that up. So that will be another conversation. It's kind of like a sidebar. So when you're discussing the pricing, at some point you will have to stop the conversation and say to your seller, and then there's the issue, because it's really kind of it's a sore spot. There is that appraiser that's going to come in and evaluate the home, and that appraiser is hired by the buyer's lender. No one knows who it is, so they're anonymous, and they will come in and they will appraise the home. Now you have to remember also, and you don't want to tell this to your sellers, but you need to know the appraisers do, there's a huge stretch between some of them. Some of them vary between 5 and 10% in pricing. Not all appraisals are the same, coming from all the different appraisers. Unfortunately, they all vary, and it could go as far as 10%. So again, you have to remind the sellers that if we go under contract, we did get an offer within the first week, how wonderful. Then we go 2 weeks later, we get the appraiser to come in and they appraise it lower than the offer price. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're going to have to accept that appraised value, because most buyers these days will not accept anything higher. I did see a little bit back several years ago, where there were, again, not a good inventory. So if the buyer was willing to fork out maybe an extra $5,000 or $10,000, they might. But that, I don't see that really anymore. So we really do have to be cautious and price it right, based on the comps, because that's what the appraisers are looking at as well, are the comps. Okay. So again, the sellers have to understand that. So Audra, thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Any questions about the appraisers and the process? We can go in a little more later on with some examples that I've had, but anything that you want to ask?
There was a question. If Memorial Day is bad, how many days after should we list?
Okay, so you can list a home that weekend following Memorial Day. You don't want to do the weekend before Memorial Day. So you can do it the weekend after. But guess, who knows, what's the best day of the week to list a home?
I've heard Thursday.
Who wants to guess?
Wednesday.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Middle of the month, middle of the week.
Thursday. Thursday's the winner. So I kind of experimented at the very beginning. I started with Thursday because that's what someone had told me in the office to do. And then I couldn't, one listing, I couldn't get it out on Thursday, so I did Friday. And then one other listing, I had to do it on Wednesday. And then one other listing, the seller just had to do it on Monday. Oh my gosh. All those other days other than Thursday were awful. Absolutely awful. Because on Thursday, that's when all the agents start pulling all their information together for their buyers, for all the scheduled drive-bys, everything happens. They want to get everything set for their clients, or maybe the clients are coming in from out of town. And most buyers are going to come in usually on Thursday night. So that way all the agents have looked at everything that came up into FMLS on Thursday, and then they schedule everything for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you miss that Thursday, on Friday, that listing may go out, but that agent or agents, they've already got all the homes scheduled, then they can't get your new listing onto their schedule, and you've lost out. Okay, so Thursday, always Thursday.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How often or when does MLS update?
It used to take a while, but now when I click submit and it's out, it probably takes just a couple minutes. Okay. It used to take there was a couple hours before, but now it's as soon as you submit, it's gone. It's right out there for everybody to see. Okay. Good question. Thanks, Anthony. All right, so let's go to page 18. Now remember, everybody has a D personality, right? All of y'all are all Ds, okay? So on page 18, it says, don't be afraid to be professionally honest. And your D personality, you have to bring your honesty, your understanding, you're willing to listen, all that into it, but you've also got to be the one who's running the show, okay? So don't be afraid to be professionally honest. Pricing right is hard work, but it's worth it because it gets your sellers to their goals, and it makes you put money in your pocket and build your business. So professional honesty is your best approach. It means understanding where the customers are coming from and being professional enough to stand up for them and tell them the truth about tough topics, such as market conditions, property condition, features, amenities, location, buyer agent feedback, and comparable property sales. So we've talked about property conditions a lot. Well, I'm going to give you an example one. I went into a listing presentation, and it was in, does everybody know where Dunwoody North is? Any of y'all? Well, Dunwoody North is, I don't know how many homes. It's over, I think, 500 homes. And very established neighborhood, has been there, I think, since the 50s. A lot of millennials are wanting to come back and live in those areas because the schools are great. Again, it's close to shopping, business, parks. It's just, and the highways, everything is perfect. So I walked in thinking, oh, this is going to be great. It's on a cul-de-sac. It's a ranch. It's all level outside. And I thought, uh-oh, he hasn't renovated. There was parquet on the floors, parquet on the counters, the olive green parquet color. There was the wood parquet floors in the dining room and living room. Now, he did try to renovate the bathrooms, unfortunately had a really bad contractor, so things just weren't quite even, but it had great bones to the house. I mean, it was just, you could just see what a possible new first-time home buyer would do to this home. It was just perfect. Had great windows. He did change out the windows. They were all double pane windows. And but how he had it was a single guy. How he had it, he was a collector of Star Wars. So when you're a collector of Star Wars, you have a few pieces maybe. I would probably say he had over 2,000 pieces. So, and that was in his living room. Okay. So I had to nicely kind of walk him through that he really needed to pack up his Star Wars because one, they could have gotten broken through the open houses, if I had an agent caravan, and I knew how important those Star Wars pieces, collectibles, were to him. Well, then he took me throughout the rest of the home, and then he took me into one of the guest bedrooms, and he had a collection of puzzles. So what's with puzzles? You know, if you miss a piece and one piece is missing, what happens to that puzzle? It's ruined. It is. It's ruined. It's not. It's the collection. It loses its value. And same thing with the Star Wars. So I had to really help him through to understand that he had to pack up. I said, "You're leaving anyway. We're going to get you on to your next adventure, and I'm going to help you with that." And that's the only time usually when I do a listing presentation, I don't ask for me to help them with the buying of their home, because I really want to concentrate on their first mission, and that is to get their house sold. And then after we start listing the home, then I'll kind of get myself into, hopefully we can partner with finding you a new home. But in this situation, I just came right on out. My deep personality said, we gotta make this happen for you. So does this make sense? And he said, "Oh, I never even thought about it." Absolutely. Yes. So luckily he was able to buy a new place. He downsized and he was able to buy and move before I actually listed his home. That is rare. Normally, they're going to have to pack up all that stuff and then maybe put it in a room or the garage or storage, something before we list the home. But again, that's where your honesty has to come out. I had another where there was they had 2 children and toys were everywhere. Crayon markings were everywhere on the walls. So we had to go room by room and try to have them kind of understand what they needed to do to get the house ready and in a good condition to be able to be ready for those buyers and agents to come through. Carpet cleaned, walls painted, toys. So I kind of talked to the children and said, "Okay, I'm going to give you homework for this weekend. If y'all can just pull boxes together, because I know not every single toy you're going to keep." And they all said, "That's right, we're going to give some away." So one box says purge, one box says donate, and one box said throw it away. And actually the children were better than the parents were. So again, you really have to explain to them nicely but directly for us to get the best price, the highest price on your home. We've got to get you organized and get this going. Okay.
So, Wendy, what do you do when there's pushback?
The only, normally I'll come back right at them and say, "Well, then we may not be able to price the home where you really want to price it." Because the buyers are going to come in, and the first thing I usually say at the very beginning when we talk about the condition and how they're going to get ready for the open houses and ready for the photo shoot is, y'all all have been in to model homes, right? In new construction. That's what I ask the sellers, and they're all like, "Oh yeah." So I'll say there's no personal photos anywhere. Everything is clean. A lot of the books and knickknacks are put away in boxes because the buyers want to see open space for your home to sell quickly and be so competitive and be the best of the house out there in your price point, in your location. Your house has got to look the best. Okay. So you just kind of, again, you bring back that conversation with the pricing, and do you want to get the most from your out of selling the home? Do you want to take that money and go on to your next adventure? Okay, you just have to constantly remind them. And then also what I do is I usually share in my listing presentation packet, I will share plumbers, painters, carpet people that can stretch carpet, wood floor refinishers, plumber, all those contractors and partners. So that way they can easily go to that list, because a lot of people don't have a list of contractors. They don't even have a plumber. And again, you have to remind them because a lot of sellers, they may have sold 5-10 homes in their lifetime, or maybe only one. But whoever that is, it doesn't really matter. You cannot treat that person who sold 10 homes in their past, you can't treat them like they know everything, because they forget all those key parts. Even I had two, actually in 2019, I had 4 clients that I had found homes in 2018. All 4 got new jobs. So I had to put their house on the market and get them ready. But they all forgot kind of the whole process of what it takes to get their house sold, and the buyer's mentalities, the agent mentalities, they just forgot. They forgot about the home inspection part. They forgot about the appraisal part. So you just have to remind them what happens. And with that home inspection, if they forget that they did change out the light bulbs, guess what? That home inspector is going to say, ooh, the bulbs didn't work. So you're going to have to get an electrician out and check to make sure that the lights work, because the light bulbs are out. And I had that happen in a condo, and the buyer said, I won't buy this condo unless I know that those lights, those ceiling lights work. So my seller had to fork out $250 just to get an electrician in to change the light bulbs. So you want to save your sellers some money. So up front, that's your conversation with them about getting things really ready for that listing and that photo shoot. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's go down to the same page in the bottom section of the page, and it says, if a seller insists on a higher than market price, get agreement now that you have not had a bona fide offer in a reasonable short period of time. So if you price it high, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no bona fide offers, hardly any showings, the feedback has been not so great, then you need to have the agreement with your sellers or seller that you will change and drop the price. That's probably the third toughest conversation to have, okay? But you have to have this conversation. So with the paragraph below, it says, the first few weeks your home is on the market are the most critical and will attract the most serious buyers. If we don't get a bona fide offer in this time, the market is telling us that the home is overpriced. If after 3 weeks, this is what's happening, do you agree the price to my recommended price, to reduce the price to my recommended price to meet market demands? Okay, you gotta have that conversation during your listing presentation. So this is one of the other scripts that you have to have. Even if you think that the pricing is perfect, you have to have this conversation. Now, some agents will put this in a special stipulation in the listing agreement. And you can just kind of word it just like this, okay? Or you can just have a verbal. I just usually have verbal conversations with my sellers about this. But I reiterate, it's very important that you understand that if we don't get movement, showings, good feedback within the 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have to drop the price. And that's hard. Now, I do want to kind of give an example. We're in a pandemic, okay? When we started this with the pandemic back in the 1st of March, we had a lot of new listings, including myself. And I'm going to give you an example of the one that I had. In Smyrna, it was a great subdivision. Pricing, I kind of priced it where the tax records assessment was, what some of the other homes in the subdivision, the comps were selling. The other homes were a lot bigger. This one was only a 3-bedroom with an option of a 4th bedroom, but no basement. So we both felt we were pricing it correctly. The pandemic hit 6 days after we listed the home. So what happened during that period of time? No showings. Yes, nothing. So we had to do, we had to rely on the virtual tours, okay? But as each week went on, so it was listed the very last week, it was like the 29th of February, then March, and then April, and then May, and we knew that the pandemic was not going away. So we dropped the price, but it took a couple months before we dropped the price. And it's because of the pandemic. Okay, so that's an exception that you're going to have to kind of work with. What are we dealing with in the market at the present time? Okay. Then June and July, still nothing. But what happened in July? What started coming up? If maybe y'all were not in, or some of y'all were in real estate at the time, but what can anybody say what happened in July?
Rates dropped.
The what? Rates?
Rates dropped.
The rates dropped, yes. So there was more buyers that started coming out saying, okay, well, I can wear my mask. I can stay 6 feet apart from everybody. I can look at the virtual tours, but I think I can go to some of the homes and see the homes. And that did, it started picking up. But for my home, for my seller, he only had 3 bedrooms and no terrace or no basement. So what were the buyers thinking at that time? Uh-oh, I'm stuck at home. I'm online schooling for my children at home. Everybody's at home. There's now 5 of us at home, or 6 or 3 or whoever, and I need space, okay? For me to function appropriately in my job, my spouse's job, my kids' schooling, we all need space. So guess what? My listing went all the way down to the bottom. So what were the buyers and the agents telling me when I finally did have some showings? What were their comments? What's wrong with the home? You got it priced too high. And we didn't. It was just because we only had 3 bedrooms. So I got a little creative. I went back to, because that was my subdivision I live in, went back to the builder's plans and got the plan for a 4th bedroom. I had the photo, my photographer come out and mock up the kitchen to be a white kitchen, because at the time a lot of buyers wanted a fresh white kitchen, white cabinets and everything. So I had him mock up, so we had pictures of what it would look like white. I really went all out. So it finally got under contract in September. Would have closed in October, but the buyers want to wait until December. So we finally, after 10 months, we will have closed on this property. So that is an exception, okay? There are exceptions, but the norm would be that if your house isn't moving between 2 to 3 weeks, then you need to consider dropping the price, or at least reevaluate what's happening. Okay, what is going on in the economy? What is going on with the rates? What is going on with the buyers? What's going on? Are there other homes in the subdivision that look better than this one? Are the conditions not as great? Do we need to make some changes before we drop the price? Those conversations with the seller you have to have. Okay.
How did you keep your seller engaged, or how did you keep your seller on board with selling through all of that? I was very, very lucky. He was a very patient seller.
He wasn't eager to move in the first place, but he knew he really needed to downsize. His son was in college. Wasn't going to come home, was going to be recruited and go to another state. So the house was, even though it was a 3-bedroom, it was just too much for him. So we thought, you know, let's start my new adventure. And, you know, but he understood, because guess what? I communicated to him every single week. So part of your conversation that you have with your sellers is that I need to be in contact with you every single week. So what way do you want us to chit chat? Is it text? Is it email? Is it phone? And what day of the week? Is it phone? What day of the week? I had one seller that had to be 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Absolutely had to be. Okay. So again, the communication is important, and I would send him, again, since I'm so passionate about CMAs, I would send him a CMA every other week of what the homes were selling for in Smyrna, in that zip code, and he was very appreciative, because he saw the homes at that time, all the way up till probably July, they really weren't selling. The ones that were selling were the 4 to 5 bedrooms that had a huge backyard, and he had no backyard. A basement, office space, because I had one new listing in June in Smyrna, and they were under a gun. Their adventure was to relocate to Florida. And they had found a home they wanted, so I had 30 days to sell their home in January. That was mid-pandemic, okay? But they had a great backyard. They had 5 bedrooms. They had a master on the main. It was a great cul-de-sac, a small subdivision. They had they didn't have a basement, but they had a huge media, family, gym, you name it, room upstairs, and an office, and 3 other bedrooms upstairs with the master on the main. So it was a pretty perfect home. All right. But I had 30 days to sell it. And I got it sold under probably it was 13 days. So again, you can sell it in a tough time. Again, but you have to know the condition. You need to know the market conditions, what's going on, and how do I communicate with my sellers day in, day out. Because in a pandemic, they need to know what's going on every single week. You never want your seller to be hanging out there, because they can easily hang you up and move on to the next agent. Okay. Communication is treat them as your best friend. And they will be. By the time you finish and you close, they are your best friend. Okay. So far, any questions? Okay, so how are we doing in time? Are we?
We can take a break right now if you want, or we could go a little bit longer. It's up to you.
Why don't we go ahead and y'all ready for a break?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me do screenshots.
Okay. Hold on, guys. And write down questions that you've got, or if you've got a situation where you've done CMAs, because now we're going to go into doing a CMA or showing you how to. I think it'll be a little more challenging for me to do a CMA kind of as I really would, but I'm going to give you as many examples and situations and stories to help you kind of understand how CMAs are a little more kind of crazy sometimes. They're not as easy as you think. Not for all properties.
Okay, 15-minute break. Unless you guys want to do 10 minutes and just be done 5 minutes early. You guys want to do that?
10 is good.
10's good?
Okay.
Okay, we'll be done with class at 8:40. 10-minute break. Be back at 5 minutes to 7. Oh, here, do it, mute it. Hey y'all, hope everyone's there. Come on back. So class is supposed to be over at 8:45. So we will be over at 8:40. That extra 5 minutes. Okay, so we need a couple of you to log back in, get your cameras back on so I can take a picture. Picture. There we go. Welcome back. Good to see your faces. Layla, Olga, Ryan, Ron, Keisha, are you guys there? Elise, is that a picture of you or are you there? It looks like a picture of you. I can't tell. Huh. Oh, she's moving. It's not a picture. Okay, I'm going to take screenshots and then Wendy will be... Smile pretty. One more. Okay, Wendy, you're good.
Okay. All right. Okay, so did anybody think of anything that you wanted to ask me to share with the group before we get into the CMA? No?
I had something to share, Wendy.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey.
I guess I was doing CMAs before I even knew what CMAs were. Last year, I had an investment property that I would say a partial renovation. I renovated as much as I thought that was needed for the home. And when it was listed, I would have showings, but no one ever wanted to put in a contract. And so I would go back and Realtor.com was like my best friend at the time. And I was always looking to see if a home went under contract in my neighborhood. And I would look at the pictures going back and forth and comparing it to my house, all the stats, and just try to figure out why my home never got any offers. And after a while, I realized that even though I had a 3-2, I didn't have a master suite. And so a lot of the people who were looking in that neighborhood were picking other homes that like were off of a main street, or their bathrooms weren't even updated. But the fact that they have, even if it was like really small, the fact that they had a master suite, a master bathroom was key for them. So I took my house back off the market, added a master bath, and put it up in August of this year. And within a week, it was over asking. So it was really key to make sure that you were providing, you know, what the people in that neighborhood were really looking for. I thought that at first it was good enough, and I didn't, you know, whoever wants to like spend the rest of the money, you know, just to get what it is that you're looking for. But in the end, that's what I had to do. And I couldn't believe that within 7 days I was under contract. So it's really important as the agent to let that seller know, like, here's the market, here are the comps. This is what is going under contract. This is what is selling. This is what other buyers are picking because of, you know, what they have to offer and compare to your home. And
Right.
that's really key. So making that change and adding that addition, got what I needed, and I sold the house.
Yep. And you learned so much. Yes. Thanks
Yes.
for sharing that. It is so important, yeah, to look at the comps and how fast did they sell, and having that bathroom part of the master suite it's crucial. Or when you have a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, or a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath compared to a 3-bedroom, 2 full baths. Huge difference in the price and in how fast it goes under contract. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to share or questions? All right. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a lot of different examples when you do a CMA, how to pull it, the basics, and then give you some examples of what I learned and have learned over the last several years and why I'm so passionate about doing CMAs, again, for the sellers as well as the buyers. So no matter, or your clients, if they're an investor, you just have to continuously do CMAs and understand how to pull the right information. You can pull the information, but it may not be right. So you have to pull the right information. So again, when we do the CMA, we're going to be looking at the location, the size, the amenities, and the condition. Okay. When I do a CMA, I do a quick CMA. Let me kind of pull. I'm going to kind of show this if y'all can see the screen. Can y'all see this at all? Yes? Okay. So here is this big cloud CMA. So when you go into Matrix and you have the option to be able to do a cloud, this is, I don't know how many pages. Okay. Does everybody have ink in their printer at home to be able to cover the expense of doing a cloud CMA? I don't. Is it worth it? No. Okay. To do a cloud CMA, it has a lot of information, and the only time I've ever used the cloud CMA is when my client is from out of town. And the client really needs to see graphs. They need to see the full page of the photos of all the different comps, everything. Because they have time on their hands, because they're not sitting in front of you chit-chatting about their property. They're in another state or another country. So Cloud CMA is a great tool to use when you've got an out-of-state or out-of-the-country client, okay? Or you could have a client that's a D personality that requires everything in, they want details from head to toe. But again, I don't think a lot of us have really had that many. It's really, again, for those that are out of town. The simple CMA, this is called a quick CMA. And a quick CMA is part of the option on FMLS, okay? Jill, can you possibly pull, go ahead, can you do FMLS?
Yeah. Do you want to pull it there, or do you want me to do it?
Well, can I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm gonna try.
Sorry. We may have to just refresh.
Okay. So, does everybody have their laptop? Are you?
They're on it.
Okay. I'm sorry. That was really stupid, guys. This is my first time doing a Zoom on the Ignite. So, excuse me. All right. So what you want to do, again, the normal is go into products and to matrix. So that's your first step. Actually, I'm gonna just do it from here. Then when you do a search, so the first thing that you do is when you get a seller and you start a conversation, as we said, either conversation could be a phone, email, or text. You're always going to find out the address, okay, the subdivision, all right? So I'm going to put in search, and I'm going to put in the subdivision. And then what I always want to know is I want to know everything about that subdivision. Because when you're doing comps, you want to know what's active. You want to know what's pending, what's under contract. You even want to know what's on hold, especially in the pandemic time frame. And you also want to know what's been withdrawn or expired. And the reason why between those two, withdrawn and expired, is because that's going to tell you if there's several properties that have expired or withdrawn, especially expired. More likely, that means there's something wrong with the home, either in the pricing or the condition of that home. So we don't want to see a lot of expireds. If we do see it, we need to pull them up, and we want to see what that pricing of that home or homes was. So I'm going to click every single one for this subdivision. And then it's going to show me that I've got 3 matches on the bottom. And why did it not? There we go. Okay, so now I know a little bit about this subdivision. One, I kind of know it a little bit because this is the home that I had back in June that I had 30 days to sell. So this is the home that I had. We sold, we ended up with a price of $493. There's one out there right now in the same subdivision at $525. What I do know about it, after doing some research, that wow, this home that I had was built in 2007. This home was 2011. So what do we know about 2011? What happened in the market in 2011? Anyone? Well, the market started to come back around very slowly with new construction. So any subdivision, condos that were partially finished in 2007, 8, and 9, kind of, went, most of the contractors went belly up, or the builders went belly up. Then in 2011 and 12, the builders came back. The ones that were successful had enough equity in their business. They came back in and started to rebuild, or they bought the lots from the bank from that previous builder. So when you see a big difference of 2007 and 2011, that's when you want to know that that a light bulb should go off, and it should say, there may be a difference in pricing, because in 2007 it could have been a different builder from 2011. Okay, so I'm going to show you something a little to understand a little more. I'm going to go back to criteria, and I'm going to take all these out. Okay, it's going to give me, I want to make sure that it's Smyrna. Okay, so if you come all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see some really low pricing. Same subdivision, but way different pricing. Then you want to come up and exclude the house that I sold at $493, but look at $440. Wow. $430. Wow. Okay. And the house I sold, when my sellers bought it back in 2007, they bought it for $425. Okay. And then all these other homes are $302,000, $309,000, $313,000. So that's telling you those homes were from a different builder. So in actuality, Brookside Park opened up in 2007, 3 model homes. 1, 2, 3, actually 4. No, 3. 425, 430, and 440. Then in the end of 2007, the builder went belly up. Sold the lots back to the back to the bank. And then a new builder, Ryland Homes. So they were built by Williamson builder. And then the Ryland Homes came in 2011. So those homes are not apples to apples. Ryland Homes, just a moderate builder. Williamson is a custom builder. So is that more challenging when you're trying to price a home and tell the agents and buyers coming into the subdivision that the reason why one home is such and such price and the other one home is another price? Yes. So you have to do your homework. You have to be able to tell the agents, and that in my listing, I said it was a custom built home by this particular builder. It was a model home. Because we started, just to let you know, if we pull this listing up and you go to the history, and because we wanted to, they really were, and if you look at the tax records said we could probably get 410. So we priced it at 409,999. So it was listed on 7/9, on 7/27, we dropped the price to $499. We went under contract on August the 5th. Then guess what? We had an appraiser come in because the offer, we had to drop the price a little bit. Because the appraised value, that appraiser came in and did not appraise it at the offer price. So my sellers, who were motivated, ready to go, said we will go ahead and drop the price. Okay. So again, I already had that conversation with my sellers during the listing presentation. What if? So we may start the pricing at this, and they were very agreeable that within 2 weeks or more, we would drop the price if we didn't get enough showings. It was during a pandemic. We had 3 people at the open house. We had 2 agents come in the day before the listing, the day after the listing went live, which I thought 5 people coming to see the home in a pandemic was pretty good. And then the next set of buyers came in, and it happened. Okay. But again, it's, as you can see, it's not apples to apples. So when you get your listing, the most important thing is to look at the history about this subdivision. Look at the history about what has sold, the condition. If you're, I'm going to give you one example of a condo. I had everybody know where Atlantic Station is? Kind of downtown, suburbs of downtown. So Atlantic Station was doing kind of revitalization. A lot of people were leaving. Builders were having problems selling and building the condos and finishing off some of the high rises. So my seller was from out of town, had rented this condo, this 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, to kind of a business. So there was cubicles throughout the entire condo. So we walked in, it didn't look like a residence. It looked like a office. So of course it's like, okay, what are we gonna do with all these cubicles? So talking to the seller, he says, no problem. The people that are renting, they're gonna clear out all the cubicles, no problem whatsoever. Well, that was wrong. came in for the photo shoot, and then the cubicles were still there. So again, when you're working on the sideline, when you're working with a seller that is selling a home, a resident, and it's being rented out, you do have to have a commitment from the seller that they have had a commitment with the renters that they are going to be working with the agent to be able to clear things out, purge, to get the condition of the property up to par for the listing to go live. So this was a little bit of a challenge. So I had to bring the photographer back twice during the period prior to the listing until we could get that renter to clear things out and I could make some sense of the condo for the photo shoot. But during that period of time, the pricing was all over the place. I had contacted, because my sellers wanted $340 for this 2-bedroom, 2-bath. They were living in California, hadn't really experienced what was happening in Atlanta. We were hit the hardest during the economy crunch back in 2008. So things had not really kind of moved much in 2015. So they just said, well, that's what we want. We want $340. So reached out to another agent that had the same thing. Most of the condos were the same other than what view you had and what floor your condo was on, because I think there was 25 floors. And she was having a hard time getting the appraiser to accept $315. So they were thinking that the appraised value came in at $309 and the buyers were not willing to do $315 that the seller wanted, so they were probably going to have to come down to $309. My seller said, we're standing firm at $340. So by looking at the comps, I could not take the comps from this one high rise in Atlantic Station. So I reached out a little further out and got comps from 5 to 7 miles out. And if you go to any appraisal course, that appraisal instructor is going to tell you you can go up to 7 miles out if the property is almost identical. Well, I think to my advantage, I think the property that I went to downtown Atlanta, I think it was the same builder, because that whole condo concept was almost identical to the one that was in Atlantic Station. And their pricing, I could get $340. So what do you think, guys? Did I win at $340? Or did I have to come down to the $315, $309? What do you think?
Come down.
Come down? Well, that time I didn't have to. I got $340.
Wendy,
yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you're going up to 7 miles in your search to, validate the price point in that condo, I'm just wondering how the appraiser would sign off on that, because like 7 miles in Douglasville is one thing, but 7 miles in Atlanta, you can go from two totally different, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the reason why I think I won is because it was a high-rise condo, 25 floors, and the only other comps that I could take would either be still in Atlantic Station area or the downtown area of Atlanta. So because it was so close, yes, there was 5 to 7 miles distance, but they were identical, and those were the only comps I could pull together to make sense, then I won. Now, if I had gotten another appraiser, would I have won? I might not have. But because I had solid information, I had photos, I had a whole listing of all the comps, the detail, everything, apples to apples. And it really, honestly, you could not tell that high rise in downtown was not the same high rise that was in Atlantic Station. Okay. Now it was, I think I also lucked out is because the other agent that had the 315 that was probably going to have to accept 309, they hadn't closed yet. So when we were in the middle of getting that appraisal done, they were still negotiating. So that appraiser didn't know what was happening in that unit. So again, that was to my advantage as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. It almost seems like everybody in that building that you sold in should write you a thank you letter, because then theirs go up too, right?
Well, I know I never got, and unfortunately, when you're in condos, it's so hard to be able to pass your card out and to have communication, because the security at that time was so, oh my gosh, you had to show them credentials and your driver's license and everything. But I would love to have stayed around and promoted myself, because yes, the last two sales, they failed royally. And it was, again, a lot of different factors involved in that. But I think I was motivated because my seller was so dominant about it and just so like, this is it, you know, and we never even met. I never met my sellers ever. So it was all on the phone. But I was proud. They were happy, very happy. And the buyer was fine. The buyer came from Seattle. She said that our pricing was awesome. So 340 was nothing. I mean, that was like a $300,000 drop from what she was experiencing in Seattle. So I was really lucky that I did get an out-of-state buyer coming from the out-of-state downtown area, that my pricing was, to her, was, you know, awesome. So, go ahead. Yeah.
So when you get an appraised value, and basically that's what goes on the loan, like whatever the house is appraised for, that's pretty much what the lender will approve it for. But if that doesn't happen, does that mean that buyer just has to pretty much put in an extra down payment or something?
So if the buyer wants to pay more, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, like if the house, say they had the house price for 340, but it came back and you couldn't get that to where they was able to go 7 miles out to compare to something else to stay at 340, and it appraised for less, that lender won't approve that loan, correct?
It really depends.
Okay. But so if they don't approve the loan, that just means that buyer will have to make up the difference?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
So either the seller has to come down in the price to what it was appraised, or the buyer is willing to fork out X amount. And on a VA loan, I don't think the VA lender will allow the buyer to fork out any additional money. The conventional, you can, and I think FHA, they can't. So a conventional loan, the buyer could fork out an additional amount above the appraised value if they really want that property. But what's going to go on to the mortgage is going to be the appraised value. Okay. What other questions?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay. So again, when you're with your seller, it's very important to ask the details about the home, the property, the HOA, and also the history about who the builders have been. Again, because since 2007 and 8, there is, especially in Smyrna, there are a lot of subdivisions and condominiums and townhomes that have several different builders. Okay, and each of those builders could be completely different. So you just really want to make sure that you're investigating and understanding who built what and the condition and everything, because when you start pulling the stats and the comps, you're going to see sometimes there's going to be a huge difference. Okay.
Have you ever had a situation where you just don't have any comps? There's no other property similar to the one that you're trying to market, and what do you do in that situation?
Yes, well, so that's a good question. So a lot of times you can go back to kind of show you what I've done in the past. You can go to the tax record, and here's the tax ID number. And you can also get that from going into Real List, which is, and then you go down to the bottom or middle section. Okay, now here's an estimated value. And you're going to see 3 different numbers. This 490,000 is there's a confidence score of 75% that more than likely 75% of the appraisers are going to agree, and including kind of the buyers will agree that that property is worth 490,000. Then there is a low price, and then which is 465.5, and then there's a high which is 514.5. And we originally, you remember, we had I originally priced it along with the seller's agreement because they wanted 510, that we would price it at 509.99. And because their property was in perfect condition. That was a couple that painted, I swear, every year, cleaned every single appliance, had inspection done on every single appliance, and plumbing and HVAC quarterly. They were on it constantly. They were great landscapers, so they were constantly planting flowers, sodding, fertilizing. So everything about this house was in great condition. And we keep talking about condition. So when I went into their tax records and saw that the possibility that the highest range could be 514.5, I felt comfortable that we could do 509.99. Okay. But at the time, pandemic, crazy stuff going on, we wanted to get them again into their next house in Florida. We decided to drop the price. So when we dropped it, we started to get, a quick interest, and then we got that offer within a week. Okay, but this is where I would go. If I couldn't find any comps, I would go to the tax record. Okay, and the tax record also, you can go to public records, Real List, and then you'll go ahead and put in the address. Okay, and what's really important about doing this and getting that tax record, that's what the first thing I do after I get off the phone or the meeting with that seller really quick. I will always pull the tax record, because the tax record, let me kind of go back and show you everything that's really, really pertinent. One, it verifies that these sellers are who they are. Okay, so if you see a different name for owner name or owner name number 2, and that's not who you've been talking to, that's a problem. So you need to verify and confirm that those sellers are who they are. Okay, then It also gives you a little bit about the house. Maybe you have not been in the house. You've looked at some of the comps for the neighborhood, but this is going to tell you that there are 4 bedrooms. There are full 4 baths, but 3 are full and 1 is a half bath. Okay, so more than likely that half bath, that means they have a powder room on the main level, and there's a garage, but there's no basement. Okay, so you were able to pull a lot of different information from this tax record. And also, you know, when was the last time the house was sold? And this is going to show me that at the time, this group of buyer, this is the buyers of the house. So these are the sellers I was working with. So this told me that my sellers were the original sellers of this home. So there's only been one owner, and that's kind of important sometimes to buyers. They like to know how many people have lived in this home. That gives them an idea of who's kept up with the condition of the HVAC, all the mechanics of the roof, outside, everything. Okay, so again, this is what I always pull and I print. And sometimes I may share it with a seller if it's to their advantage to look at the pricing range. I'll share it with them. But I always have this, because also this will help you when you've gotten the listing and you're ready to put the information into FMLS. This is the information that you need to go to. This report is what you need to get to pull those details for the new listing. Okay. So let's go back. Say you don't have, and let's go into search. Again, you really don't think that you've got a lot of, there's been no homes in that subdivision for sale over the last couple of years. Well, that's not going to help you to pull comps. So what I always do, which is easier, is I always go ahead and put in the elementary school. The elementary school, which is you just put in the name of the elementary school here, that's going to give you a smaller radius around that property or that subdivision. Okay, because again, you need to pull comps that are apples to apples. And most appraisers are going to view it through the elementary or the middle school, because that's going to be closest to that particular subject property. Okay, so again, some people go up here and put in 5 miles. I just do the elementary. Okay, and then if you don't get enough comps, then I would go to the middle school. Okay. So what other questions do you have? Now that you kind of were doing these steps on in FMLS and Matrix, so far, any questions you've had in any of the CMAs that you've done or you're about to do for a seller, for a buyer, or investor?
I have a question about the CMA when you don't have any other properties to compare it with, and it is, so basically I have a listing, we haven't listed yet, and the house is beautiful. They're doing a full renovation, and the house sits on 60 acres. And it's been in the family for so long that they don't even have, I'm drawing a blank. Help me out, y'all. What is it called? It's not the appraisal. Survey. So we've talked about what's the most cost efficient. I called an appraiser to see if they could come out and appraise a home before we actually list, so we know exactly what we could list at. And they was like, well, due to what I'm seeing, you know, they may need to have a survey done first so I can get an accurate appraisal for that 60 acres. So what would be the best, most cost efficient way if you can't go the route of an appraisal before listing to arrive at a list price?
Well, if you're that far out kind of in the country with that many acres, I probably would agree with what the appraiser told you, because getting a survey, more than likely the buyer is going to want in detail what, how many miles to the right, left, south, east, all that, and where's my property line. So and the survey is going to cost your seller about $600 to $700. That, again, that may range depending on the survey company. But that will then help the appraiser evaluate the home, the property, the house itself in a much better way, so you're not losing possibly any additional dollars. Okay. But it is a challenge. And then you can, you definitely can go to the tax record and just kind of look at it and break it down and see what it does say for the acreage, what it does say about the home, because the home might have been renovated along the way, and the tax records may say 3 bedrooms and now it has 5. If they didn't get a permit way back when, at some point in time in the family, then those tax records are not going to change unless they got a permit. Or if they had gotten an appraisal done on the property at some point, which then with the appraiser coming in, they're going to change the characteristics, and that's going to change how many bedrooms the bath shows up. Okay, so I would definitely recommend the surveyor and then the appraiser. Okay.
Thanks.
But let me kind of I'm glad you brought that up about when would you get an appraised value on the property, before or after? I have done several properties and getting the appraisal done before I listed it. One example was back in 2015 here in Smyrna. I knew that was the cutting edge with a lot of things that were changing in Smyrna, especially with the announcement of the Brave Stadium coming in. And I got a listing because I was helping an agent that had a renter, and they were moving out across the street, and this seller comes running over across the street and says, gosh, you're a real estate agent, I need to sell my home. So I met with them, and they said, well, I think we can probably get more for our house, and next door they got 278. I'm sorry, 178. And I thought, well, I kind of agree with you. I think we probably could get more than that. So they were already, the house next door was basically the same floor plan, very similar. The exterior, the outside was a little different. They had more of a level backyard than their neighbor. So we got an appraiser to come in, and they actually appraised the house at 233. The home next door was under contract at 178, and we had 233. So we listed it at 233. So what do you think, guys? Did we get 233, and how fast did we go under contract?
You got 233 in 3 to 5 days.
We did. You got right on it, Audra. We did. And again, what I did in the public comment or the private comment that goes to the agents, I said we just got an appraisal done. 233. Okay, so we listed at 233. And were their neighbors a little unhappy? Yeah, they were. That was a big difference. So we were very happy, and the second appraiser came in, and they praised it for 233. So again, that could have been a situation where we had it appraised by one appraiser before we listed it, and then the buyer's lender had another appraiser, and that could have dinged us. But because of the comps and the stats that I pulled, the appraiser before pulled, we were able to support that number of 233. Okay. Another situation that I had that I pulled an appraiser to come in before. This was again back in 2015, but it was, everybody know where the covered bridge is? If you do, on the other side of the covered bridge going toward our Austell and Powder Springs is still 30082. It's still Smyrna. But not a lot was happening in 2015 on that side at all. So when this seller found me, he said, and he found me in 2014 in October, and he called me and I said, well, are you, and I want to share this with y'all because you have to remember the code of ethics. He said, yeah, I'm with another agent. We have a listing agreement. And I said you know, we can't, I can't talk to you. You know, you can tell me where you live and I can go buy it, but I can't really talk to you, Jerry, anymore. He says, all right, I'll call you when I release the agent. So that was October. So he called me back in December and I said, hey, Jerry, what's going on? He says, well, I'm ready to list with you. And I said, what have you withdrawn or expired your listing? He says, no, not yet. And I said, Jerry, I can't talk to you. So remember, you can never talk to a seller during the period that they're already listed with another agent. So finally he calls me in January. Jerry, are you? Yes, I am. I have expired my listing agreement and we are good to go. So through our conversation, he had a great home, a ranch, brick home on the other side of the covered bridge. It had been a rental home in the family for forever. There was a guest cottage out in the backyard he was in the middle of finishing with it's 1 bedroom, a little sitting room, bedroom, and kitchen, bathroom. And then he had another little cottage that hadn't been finished. So a lot of opportunities for a rental or for a guest room or studio office in the backyard. And he was reworking and trying to do some changes in the house. But when I walked in, that's where the deep personality and the honesty came through. And it's like, Jerry, your kitchen is just, it's not going to be acceptable. It was scary. It really was scary. It was all the original cabinets, very dark and dirty and scummy, and sink was nasty, the floors, and I said, this has all got to go. He looked at me like, are you nuts? And I said, the people that are going to be buying your home, they're first-time home buyers. They want to see something that they can do some renovations, but not something that they can't eat off of, like the counter, and put something in the cabinets without something crawling over their food. So he and I joked, and he understood. He says, well, I'm going to work on this, and in 2 weeks, I want you to come back and see what you think. And I should be finished with the guest house in the back. So I came back in 2 weeks, and things had kind of moved on, but not the greatest. And I said, okay, you say that you want 170. And you couldn't even get 150 with your previous listing. So let's get an appraiser to come in. So we did, and the appraiser actually appraised it for 142. So he was extremely upset. He says, now what do I do to be able to get 170? What do I do? So we went room to room, and most of the other rooms in the house were very livable. It was just really the kitchen. So he redid the cabinets, brought in a new sink, took some of the old appliances out, replaced. It looked good, it looked livable, and he finished the guest quarters in the back. So we went out and got it listed at 170. The comps I used had to come from I call it Main Street, Smyrna, 30080. It had to come from the ranch style homes near the Smyrna Village. Smyrna Village had to, because they were the apples to apples, and that was a far distance. That was definitely more than 5 miles. It was probably closer to 7 to 8, 9 miles. They're the only comps I had. I was not, because the other appraiser was going toward Austell and Powder Springs, and that wasn't fair because our zip code was Smyrna. So what do you think happened with that pricing and the buyer and the actual final price? What do you think?
Got more than the asking price?
Huh?
Got more than the asking price?
We wish, but we actually did get 170. We did get 170. We got a buyer that was living in Brookhaven in a high rise, was tired of being in a high rise, knew that 30082 in 2015 was going to be going in the right direction for property values. And he thought that he could gradually do some renovations or just keep it, because I watch this house all the time to see if he turns around and sells it again. But it's still there. He still owns it. So, and it appraised for 170. Okay. So there are so many what ifs when you are working with a property that's extremely unique, or is at the cusp of the change in the market in a particular location. I've had this one buyer or seller that's going to be selling her townhome in Fairburn, and I have known her a long time, and I've been sending her a CMA every quarter for the last 6 years. She has now seen, since 6 years ago, she now sees her estimate of what she's probably going to profit from waiting. She's going to pocket an additional $55,000 just for waiting. And Fairburn, as you know, it took a while in the South Side to change, but it is now a lot of new construction. She's in a subdivision where there's other townhomes that are being built by a new builder, completely different builder, and very good builder. And having that new construction happening in her current townhomes complex is actually helping the prices of the older townhome units to go up. She started 6 years ago at $95,000, and more than likely, if we put it on the market early next year, it's probably going to bring 160. Okay. So make this, when you do your comps, make it a kind of a game to see how much knowledge you can pull together and one, impress your seller, but also impress yourself that you know that I'm up against the agents that are coming in to see the house who will challenge me, and also the buyers who will challenge. So you've got two sets of people that will be challenged, and actually the appraiser. So 3. So you really have to go in there and know what you're doing and spend some time pulling the numbers and get the detail about that property as much as you can. Okay. So has anybody done a CMA on your own house or your family's house or a friend? Some yes, some no. You got it. That's where you need to start.
Wendy?
Wait, I'm going to back out of this. Stop sharing.
Wendy, I had a question.
Sure.
So I have a friend who has a house that's listed on the FMLS as a 2-1, but they went in and didn't permit like 15 years ago, and they added a bathroom, and they added a big great room on the back, and they didn't have it permitted. So if she was talking about maybe wanting to sell, so if I was going to sell, the FMLS right now is still calling it a 2-1 at like 1,000 square feet, where it's really a 2-2 at like 1,600 square feet because of the addition. So what do you do about that?
You know, what I probably would do is I would get an appraisal done.
Okay.
Okay. The appraisal is only going to cost anywhere from $350 to $450. And for most sellers, you know, they're willing to give up that amount of money to be able to get that higher list price.
Okay.
Okay.
So would she get dinged for not having permits? I mean, would that go to the county, the tax record, that kind of thing? I guess it could, right? That would
How many years ago was it?
About 15, probably.
I think it's probably in the past. So that's why you kind of want to get, and I'm surprised that it never got really changed, because as many of the, you know, the tax guys that, you know, come knocking at your door periodically every quarter, I don't know, every 4 years, every 3 years, normally they will adjust that. But I guess no one was ever home when they came to the house. But having an appraisal done, that will then give that the right to be able to put that information in the listing with the right information, with the right square footage, the right amount of bedrooms and baths.
Okay. Okay. So I shouldn't go in and put it in without that.
Where did these numbers come from? It'll say appraisal.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, a quick question. If I have a property that is old, and the only one that was sold was another property that was remodeled. So if you want to compare, you will have to say, okay, this one was completely remodeled, this one is old. Like how do you compare old with remodel? And there are no more comparables.
So there's no other comparables. Okay. So what you have to do is there really isn't a cost sheet of what that renovation. Now, if that seller property owner can give you what they put into that home, and if that home looked like, you know, the one that you're going to be of your seller, say it, your seller is maybe 200,000, they put 75,000, then you would be able to make some sense. Would that other high renovated property?
Well, they are charging the same. They're charging $250 for both. Like this one, but this one was completely remodeled and it's just closed. So my comparable is the one that closed, and this one is an old house, but it's same location.
They will never sell that house. The only time that it may sell is if we're right now with the shortage of inventory of homes and a particular price point, which is usually anything under $350, $325. There are a huge amount of buyers out there right now for that price point. So there's a chance that someone is so desperate for a home, they will take the chance, make an offer, and then keep their fingers crossed that it will appraise.
Okay, so then I can recommend that. I can recommend an appraisal, and I also can make a lower offer, like at least take out like 20,000 or something.
Well, I can tell you the sellers are just there. I have a buyer right now, and we have been looking for a home in that price point, under 300 since May, and we have lost out on I don't know how many offers and multiple offers. And some of the homes that are being snapped up, I can tell you, are in not great condition. They should be probably at 250 rather than 300. But because the demand is out there for those homes in those locations, some though are not appraising. So you can watch the steps as that particular home goes through the process, and sometimes you'll see it come back on the market because the home didn't appraise, but the seller still allows it to go back on the market at that high price, still thinking that there's going to be a buyer out there wanting it again, and then their lender will have an appraiser that will agree to that price.
Okay.
Sellers are willing.
When in that subdivision, they said not for renting. So investors shouldn't be buying that house because it's not to rent, or normally they have like a percentage to be rent. If they said not to rent, then for sure you cannot buy it to rent it.
So the subdivision you can't rent?
That's what it says in the FMLS. It says for rental, and it says no.
Right.
Like
so
is that a
single family home or is that a condo?
It's a home. It's a home. But
Okay,
it's a subdivision, it's a detached home, and it says in the list where it's allowed to rent, it says no.
okay.
So then there is no way that an investor can buy it and maybe in the future rent it?
No.
How
That's,
can they know?
well, because that HOA probably has a limitation of how many rentals can be in that subdivision. And most subdivisions only, depending on if it's a small subdivision, they probably will only allow 1% of the total amount of homes to be rented. So if there's only 37 homes, 1%, they're only allowing 3 homes in that subdivision to be rented. So majority of the time they'll say that can't be rented because it weeds out, because they don't want investors coming in to that subdivision. Yeah, that's
But
why.
maybe I can find out what is the percentage of people that is renting already, and if the percentage hasn't been met, then we could still can make the offer. I don't know.
Possibly, but you would definitely need to go to the HOA representative and ask, and that way, because I was in a situation with one of my sellers that originally she was selling her townhome to an iBuyer, and everything was 2 days before closing. That iBuyer found out, who was an investor, found out from the HOA that they had already been over the limitation of rentals. So that iBuyer was able to back out of that contract, still take their earnest money, and my seller was left hanging 2 days before closing. So it is so critical that if you see anything about rentals, or if your buyer is an investor, you need to clarify almost in writing if that property will be able to be leased for how long and when, and the whole shebang.
How was the buyer able to pull out and still keep their earnest money?
Because the listing agent did not clarify that and check with the HOA before listing it, stating that there were no more rentals to be for that subdivision. So in the listing, it said, can it be rented? It said yes. So the buyer, who was an iBuyer, said, oh, that's really great. I'm an investor, and it says it can be rented, so I'm gonna be renting it after I buy it. Then they went 2 days before closing, got the letter back from the HOA, and in the bottom of the letter said stipulation number 5 or whatever, saying, and please be aware that there are no rentals to be had in this subdivision for the next year. We are at our max. So because it was the listing agent's fault and part of the seller's fault for not confirming it with the HOA, that iBuyer got his earnest money back. So that was really bad. You never want to have that happen to your seller. Not 2 days before closing, not ever. Okay, good questions. What else? So what are you afraid of with doing a CMA? All right, so
going too high or too low, just, like you said, overprice it, and then you're on the market too long and having to go back and explain. So just trying to get it right the first time, or close to it.
Yes, it gives you a lot of confidence when you can price it right the first time. I hate taking price reductions. I despise them. I mean, you have to go in and do an amendment to the listing agreement. You have to have everybody sign it. Then you have to go into FMLS and Georgia MLS, and you have to change all that. Then you have to make more copies of the listing reports that you have at the house. It's just not worth it. So it is so crucial that you get it right at the very beginning. Everybody's happy. You're happy. You get it sold. But at least it is there in case you don't get the activity for some reason. Something happens. The market the subdivision, you know, new construction, new lanes going out outside of the subdivision that's causing people not to want to buy. Something may cause, you know, the dissatisfaction of looking at that property. It's going to happen, but if you can get the right property, price it right, and it'll be a lot of fun. But don't be afraid to, again, challenge your sellers with the pricing, because they're going to come up with one price and you're going to come up with another. Okay? So the best is, you know, come together and purge the two pricing estimates, and hopefully everybody will agree. Now, do I agree with my sellers a lot? I do. But I have a plan of action. I have a plan of action saying, okay, this is why I priced it the way I did. And this is why, and these are the comps. And if it does not sell, or we don't get contracts, offers, showings, interest, or we get feedback that's not acceptable and it's not supporting the price, then we are going to take the price reduction after 2 to 3 weeks. Is this in an agreement? Okay. That's where you need to be a D personality. And they don't want to take a price reduction either. So that's why it's important. And when you come in, because they're basically at that point in time, when you're sitting at the table with them, they're putty in your hands. I don't care if the sellers are, you know, CPAs. I don't care if they're lawyers. I don't care who they are, or they're a manager of a grocery store. Okay, they all may be number driven. And they negotiate a lot, but you are the person that has that knowledge about real estate, about the subdivision, about the comps, your knowledge about what's selling. So basically, they're looking to you for everything. Okay? Don't be scared of them, because they're looking at you for advice. And if you have memorized, and this little page here, this little simple, quick CMA has my little notes. This is my copy. The sellers will get a blank copy. Okay? But you're going to have all this up here. In the very beginning of the overview, it showed the guy with the brain. And that's what it is. It's your mindset. So once you learn everything about the property, the comps, the area, the location, the county, what's happening, then they're going to believe you pretty much. Okay? It's their home, but you've done your homework on expanding out. So more likely, majority of the time, you're going to win in that pricing. Or you're going to be able to get them to come down in their pricing. Because you have the knowledge, you have the reason, and you're supporting it with these facts. Okay?
On that CMA.
Same thing. I'm sorry, who was that?
No, it's me, Karan. I was just saying, on that CMA, would it show the subject property also, or does it just show the properties that you're coming?
Actually, if the subject property, if it's already been listed and you're giving them a CMA, every other week, you can go ahead and list their property as the subject under the active section. And then all the other ones are going to be what's sold. So when I share a CMA every other week with them, I will do their listing with all the other active, with the pending, with the under contract, and with the solds. Now, when you have already gone under contract, you're ready for the appraiser to come in. All I'm going to do is put the subject property at the top, and then what's sold. The appraiser does not, and I repeat, does not want to see any other active properties on the CMA or pending or under contract. Those are true. Those are not true actual price values. Those are just estimates. Okay, so the appraiser only wants what's sold. But when I go in and do this every other week conversation and show them the CMA, I want my sellers to see what's happening. What's the activity? How many, like during the pandemic, when I first put the 3-bedroom on the market, he saw that there wasn't anything going on. There wasn't anything for sale or going under contract. There were some homes for sale, but nothing was selling unless it had that backyard, had that basement, and had all that extra space, you know, for the buyer in this pandemic period of time. But that's, again, don't be afraid of sharing this new CMA with your clients. This is what they're going to want. And that person who I'm going to be selling the townhome with, whenever she's ready, again, this is a CMA that I send to her every quarter. And she loves it. And then I've got 2 other listings that are coming up. They're relocating out of state. They want to know what probably will be the price of their home when they finally list it next month. And so right now I'm sending them a CMA prebbly every 3rd week, so they get an idea of what are the homes selling in their subdivision, because they want to get prepared to go to their new house or to Charlotte and find out, okay, if I sell my house now for this amount of money, I bought it 2 years ago, what's my equity, and what I'm going to be able to put down as a down payment on my new house. So all this is really very helpful for them to see what the true pricing is happening in their subdivision now. You're helping them get to their next adventure. Okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
How far back would you go in terms of sold date on the properties that you're looking at, the comparison properties?
If you don't have a lot of comps, I would just do a year. If you have a lot of comps, I would do 90 days. Okay, because things change so much in 90 days, especially in just Cobb County, Cherokee County, even Douglas County. Okay, a lot of changes.
Where in the FMLS we say how many months are we going to compare? Like where do we say that?
So when you're doing a CMA for a new listing, you want, and there's a lot of homes that have sold either in that subdivision or that location, then go ahead and use 90 days. Okay. If you're pulling comps and you can't find any, it's way out in Canton somewhere, closer to Waleska or Jasper, then you may have to go back 180 days to a full 360.
Okay.
And you can judge that, because you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back too far, because the appraisers really don't like to do that unless there's just no comps. They like 90 days. That's their preference. Okay.
90 days. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So the place to do it is with once we are in the tax ID, we will go and do comparables. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So again, remember that when you do a CMA, you can do it for your buyers, because when you go on some showings, you're previewing homes, or you're taking them to a couple open houses, they're smart. They have already done their homework, and they want to know right off. And because of the competition is so high in a lot of the price points of homes, you may show them 5 homes on Friday, and Friday night they want to write an offer. And if you haven't done your comps for those homes that you're seeing, you're going to have to do some homework by the time you finish previewing those homes to the time that they're ready to do an offer. And you don't want to miss out, because 1 hour or 2 hours can make a difference from that listing agent getting another offer. It is in high competition right now. There's not one, there hasn't been an offer out there this entire year from my buyers that we haven't been in multiple offer situations. Okay. So if you have listings, that's great. But if you're representing the buyer, it's challenging. So you really want to make sure that you're doing your CMA for them as well. And then your investors, if you're working with investors, oh my gosh, they will want comps right off the bat. Don't even send them properties unless you've already pulled comps for them. They won't even want to look at the subject property. They want to know how much they're going to profit based on the renovation needs, the cost, everything, and then they'll talk to you. Okay. But make it a passion to do these CMAs. So starting tomorrow, I want you to really take hold, again, do any property, or if you're renting right now, no worries, just go to a condo or a single family home that you've looked at and you like. This is what I did when I first started, because I started in July. So, at that time, way back then, that's when things in 2014 was not going crazy in homes. We had a lot of inventory. So I dealt with basically pulling my database together, getting all my contacts into the database, and then going to the open houses, and then going into homes. Just calling the agent saying, I want to go into that home. Went over to Vinings Estates, did an open house for an agent. Didn't have my own buyer or listing in Vinings Estates for 4 years later. But because I had done an open house and went into so many other homes in Vinings Estates, I felt like I knew that subdivision. Okay, so don't worry that I'll never be able to find somebody in that area or that subdivision. Yeah, you probably will. Will it be today, tomorrow, this year? Maybe not, or maybe, but at some point you will, because as soon as your buyer knows that you can spiegel out all types of information about the change in prices and the location of within that Vinings Estates is huge, but once you break it down and make them understand the details about the amenities and how everything is run through the HOA, they're like, wow, this is cool. Let's go find a home in Vinings Estates. But if I hadn't done my homework, I would not have been able to, get their interest going at the very beginning. Okay. And some people I had somebody that I started with, and she just loved this $1 million home subdivision, and she concentrated on that subdivision. That was her goal. So whatever, floats your boat, whatever is interested to you, or it could be just townhomes, or it could be condos. It doesn't have to be Cobb County. You can go to Dunwoody, or you can go Southside. If you're from Gwinnett County, go to Gwinnett County and get lost. Drive around and find all the different, I have sold homes in Cumming, Peachtree City, Conyers, Lawrenceville, Covington. So just go wherever, it takes you, okay? Don't stay in just the one location. Because again, if you stay in Cobb County, there's not a lot of inventory. If you go out a little bit, there's a little more that you can possibly venture and convince your buyer or find new sellers along the way. But keep your card in your pocket everywhere you go with a mask on. Share your business card, but get your contacts, please, please, please. I can't say enough. Get your contacts into your database. Send them emails. If you haven't already sent everybody an email saying that you've started in real estate, you're excited, you're passionate about the business, get it out tomorrow. Okay? Because they're the ones that are going to come back to you. Majority of my business are from referrals. Okay? I hardly ever have to cold call. I do, but if I don't want to, I don't have to. They're coming from my referrals. Okay, and they're the best group because they're the ones you can trust, or someone referred, and that person who referred that person, and somehow they can give you good information about them, and you just feel more comfortable building that relationship with them. Okay, Any questions? What do we got?
Here's a question. With investment properties, what would you recommend to use for CMAs? This was a little while ago, so you may have answered that.
What CMAs do I pull for investment properties? Depending on if your seller or your investor wants, say in Grove Park, you need to, again, go into Matrix, do a search, and pull up everything from, under contract, sold, active, pending, everything, expires, withdrawals for Grove Park, and look at the area and map it out and see what is really selling, or how do those homes look. Like right now, I started sending my investors a lot of 2-1s because they had a lot of potential. Found out later on 2-1s in Grove Park, they didn't sell. Everybody wanted at least a 2-2 or a 3-2, at least 2 baths. So I wasted my time for a short period of time, but with that investor, we were getting excited because the bones of the property, they were so good, but no one was interested, and all the expireds and withdrawals were 2-1s. So again, you have to make sure when you are working with an investor that, one, you get exactly what they can afford, what type of loan can they work with, because a lot of the properties that are in need of renovations and are in that category for the investor, they're only cash only. So if you have an investor that is hard money or maybe a conventional, sometimes those are eliminated from potential making offers. Okay. And if you want to do an investor for a rental property, the property is in great condition, you just have to make sure that you go into the rental property search and break it down that way and tell them what the rent per month would be, including the HOA fee and anything else that they would have to cover as a investor. Okay, and those are challenging because you have to really do a lot of your homework up front for those that are going to be purchasing the property in great condition, but they're going to be renting. They're very particular. Okay. How are we doing in time?
We still have about 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay. So we've got about 20 minutes. Anything that's popped up that we haven't discussed, and it doesn't have to be necessarily about the seller. This is the time that you can bring up anything that you've come up. Maybe you've been working with more buyers lately. Any questions that have surfaced that you're not sure about with pricing, comps, things like that. Up for grabs.
Wendy?
Yes.
I'm working with my very first buyer. I've only been at this for about a month, like so many of us in this class. So went under contract Saturday.
Congratulations.
This is a duplex in the West End area of Atlanta near the Beltline.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a young couple. They want to live on one side of the duplex and rent out the other side. Both units right now are rented. Ultimately, they have the option of having one of the tenants break the lease, and then they plan to move into that particular unit. The challenge with this is because both units are rented, they haven't seen the inside of the property yet. They have 14 days to see it. That's in that due diligence time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the duplex needs quite a bit of work. It looks good on the inside, but we were given an inspection report prior to them making an offer, and the seller has agreed to make these repairs by a certain due date. The challenges with this, especially where the listing price is concerned, is the comps are actually all over the place. And by it being a duplex, it's difficult to we haven't really seen anything in recent months that has sold in that particular price range.
Mhm.
But it just feels like there's a lot going on. So ultimately, I guess what I want to know is, what should I be aware of as we move forward in terms of, quite frankly, the seller's agent seems to move a little slow for my taste.
Mhm.
And and I'm a little bit concerned that he's not going to meet the deadlines that we have in place.
Okay. So let's backtrack. Who did the home inspection? Did your buyer order the home inspection?
No, the home inspection, there was an offer on the home prior to us.
Yeah.
And that group of people ordered the home inspection and just decided that it was more than they wanted to deal with. So the agent in this case, like, look, we're ready to get rid of this. Here's the home inspection. This is what's going on with it. Let's see if your buyers even want to be bothered, so to speak.
Okay. Does your buyer or buyers feel comfortable with that home inspection? Because not all home inspections are equal. Did the home inspector get to go inside the property?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so what the plan is, there's some things that we're absolutely aware of. We haven't been in, we'll go in this next week or so. So we're going to agree to, we have a list of repairs that we'll agree to. And then the buyers will also have their own contractor come in and take a look as well.
Okay. So y'all haven't done amendment to address concerns yet?
No.
Okay. So how many more days do you have left?
We just, I would say 10 days left.
Saturday, you want under contract? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's important that, so when is your inspector coming in?
We haven't gotten that far.
You need to get somebody really, really quick, because you could be up against a bad roof. And because the home inspector is not a roof specialist, they may recommend that you get a roofer out.
The roof has to be replaced. We know that.
Okay. So, and the seller is willing to replace the roof?
Yes. Yeah, so the sellers are investors, and they seem to have access to contractors and people who can do that work that us regular folks wouldn't have access to.
Okay. Well, the only thing that's at least protecting you is, one, you'll have 2 home inspection reports, so you can compare. Okay. You do have a very long due diligence period of 14 days. But you do want to make sure that everything is negotiated within that 14 days. And then, as you said, the listing agent is slow. They are up against, that financial contingency, the appraisal contingency. If they don't meet that, then your buyers can walk away and get their earnest money back. So they can't dawdle.
So what we do feel good about is that the buyer this is a VA loan. So,
oh, wow, that's even more stricter.
Yes. And they know that. So we felt a little bit better because there's that added protection in terms of the VA having to come out, send their own, the VA appraisal would have to be done as well. So
the VA is protecting the buyer in 100%.
Mm-hmm.
If they see anything that's going to make that buyer having to fork out money over the next couple of years, they're going to flag it. Okay. And then if it doesn't appraise, that VA they're going to come back and be real hard-nosed and say, if you seller, if you don't agree to this, then these buyers are going to be able to walk away and get their earnest money back.
Okay.
Okay. With the comps of, now, did you pull comps based on a commercial or leased properties?
No.
Okay. Let me kind of go back and let's go back. Okay, so you can go up to the search and go residential income.
Okay.
And then you can go in and put in duplex. You know, and then again, you want to do everything. And say it's in, let's just say Cobb County. Let's do 300 or less. Let's do less than that. Well, let's just pull up the matches and you'll be able to see. So you'll be able to actually kind of see what all the comps are. And you can go nearer based on the city, how many, again, bedrooms it is, all that. So that's really how I would have gone and done the comps.
Okay.
Okay. That makes sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Because it just makes makes the property more of apples to apples rather than looking at it as a duplex that's not rentals. And you can also see what they're rented for. Is it $900 a month? $1,500 a month, and the condition of those units.
Got you.
And then also, if it's in a great location, how fast are they selling? And that's, again, if they're selling very quickly, that means the high demand and the pricing is going to go up.
Got you.
Yeah. Brittany, did you have a question?
I do. This brought up a good topic. So my sister has been considering selling her home. She has a big house in Sandy Springs, and she's been looking for property in North Georgia, and she's working with a realtor in North Georgia. They're considering selling their home here in Sandy Springs and moving to like an investment property in the mountains. But her realtor in North Georgia was telling her that because of the market being so hot right now in Atlanta, that she could probably make a pretty decent profit on her home. The tricky piece, like I've tried to go in and pull comps for her so she can get like an understanding of what she might be able to get for her home. The tricky thing is she has this basement apartment that rents out and she generates really good income from it. When she purchased the home, the basement had not been finished. So she finished the basement and has been renting it out for long-term stays on Airbnb, and it's generated really good income. I've had a hard time trying to figure out the best way to search for comps for a home similar to hers.
You can't.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
I don't think there really are going to be. It's a very unique situation. And then some people don't want to advertise that they have a rental in their basement because the HOA sometimes won't allow it or their neighbors won't like it. So that's the challenge, is it's really not going to be recorded anywhere.
Okay. So there's not, let's say she's not under an HOA and she has all the necessary permits for the basement apartment, like a home that has a similar situation, wouldn't they want to advertise that? Because it's making really good income for her, that one bedroom apartment.
In the listing, you could, I would probably say you can, in both the private and the public comments, you could state that there is great rental opportunities in the terrace or the basement level, and kind of leave it at that. Or you could say, if it's not part of an HOA and no one cares, then you could actually put what they have been getting as income from that rental.
Okay.
Okay.
Without that piece, would you just pull comps that just have finished basements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would have to do some search on my own and just to see what category would pop up and what area. But in Dunwoody, that is pretty unique. So are they not in a subdivision at all?
Oh no, they are. It's Sandy Springs. It's like Ball Mill Road, off of exit 6,
Okay.
off of 400. It's just she's probably been in the home 2 or 3 years. And she's done other updates. I mean, she's put a good bit of money into the house. So it's definitely been updated since she purchased it. But she went through all the permitting and stuff to be able to list it for long-term rentals. It's not like short-term rentals, but.
Well, if it's that completed, exterior entrance, parking, everything.
Yeah, there's parking and a separate entrance. It's essentially just like a normal apartment.
So in the photos, because I had one actually in Marietta in a small subdivision, and I don't think it was against the HOA. I'm not sure how many people knew that he had her down there. But they, she had, yes, her own separate entrance. Everything was locked going into the main house. And I did put a lot of photos, because when those photos of downstairs look like a single family home. I mean, it had a fireplace, it had a kitchen, it had a office, a full bathroom, a family room, and the bedroom. So it really did look like a single family home. And then I did put how much income it was.
Okay.
So, and again, because you do want to attract the buyers with extended families. And nowadays with the pandemic, there is a lot of that right now. So that's probably what the agent up in the mountains were saying, that because you have a great house with a great situation with rental opportunities, that could escalate the price of the home a little bit.
Yeah.
Not huge, because you don't want to out price among all the other homes in the subdivision. That will flag to the appraiser. Okay, great question. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Audra, any more? Any more questions?
8 minutes.
Well, maybe a question related foreclosures and short sales. Like same way that I know you. Well, just in the future, I hear that maybe we're gonna be able to find short sales or foreclosures in the future. So I was thinking like maybe we can do some search and compare. So if we have to do a CMA, we have to compare foreclosures with foreclosures and short sales with short sales, or we can do it with the normal houses.
It depends on, again, we're going back to, depends on the condition of the home. Okay, if it just went into foreclosure, it was during the pandemic, the sellers maintained the home all the way up through 2019, but 2020 they weren't be able to maintain the home like they should have, and needed a little painting, a little replacement of carpet. You would need, that's the condition of the home. So you would just find another comp that looked like the condition of that home. Not necessarily was it a foreclosure. hopefully we won't ever get back into that foreclosure and short sale situation. And they're actually, I just read an article last week that they're really not, even though a lot of people are in arrears with their mortgage, they're not expecting a lot of foreclosures to happen in 2021. Okay, just because the banks and the government are protecting those sellers, those homeowners. Okay, so that's a good thing, because we don't want to have to go through that, what we went through in 2009 through 2011. Okay. Any other questions? Great questions. What else? No? Any ahas? Are y'all ready?
Who learned something tonight?
Huh?
Who learned something tonight?
Yeah. Who's going to do, what's your first thing that you're going to do tomorrow? For those that don't have another job, I don't know how many of y'all are part-time, full-time. What's the first thing that y'all are going to do tomorrow in the morning?
I'm going to do a CMA on my home.
Okay, what else? What else are you going to do?
Work on that database.
Yes. Again, LinkedIn. If y'all are in LinkedIn, now I'm not the expert. Are you an expert? No. So I don't think it's that difficult. Somebody in the office when I started took me by the ropes and said, okay, this is what I can do for you for LinkedIn. So export everybody you've got in LinkedIn over to your database. Okay. And that is instant. It's quick. Now, of course, you don't have probably their address. You don't have their phone number, but you do have their email. Okay. So that's where you can go ahead and send that email out to everybody and say, hey, I just joined up with Keller Williams Cityside. I'm so excited. If anybody knows, or if you are interested in buying or selling or investing this year, please contact me. We'd love to talk. Okay. Cool. 4 minutes. Okay. So, okay, just to kind of go over a little bit. A well-priced home, remember, the well-priced home creates interest, attracts buyers, generates showings, and produces offers, all very quickly. Okay? A well-priced home. Okay? So that's what you need to share with your sellers. The 4 factors that drive price: the size of the home, location, the condition, and the amenities. Okay? Size is not as big as it used to be. The square footage, the appraiser does the square footage, but when it comes to the buyer's interest, it's not really about the square footage. It's really about the details of the home and the condition. Okay? And remember, the percentage of buyers who will look at a property increases and decreases in direct proportion to the property's price. Okay, so it's priced too high, they're not going to ask their agent to go see that house unless there's no homes on the market like we're experiencing right now. Then they may go see that overpriced home. Because I have even done that. We are desperate. Okay. And why is a CMA important? It is designed to help you walk the seller through the comparative process you went through to arrive at the recommended list price. So you need to be the specialist. You need to be the D personality. You need to be the person that has all the answers to all the seller's questions as it relates to how to price the home. Okay. They need to be ready to show the home. The condition is just, I can't say enough about that. The condition of the home will make or break you. If they don't purge, they don't clean, they don't reorganize, they don't think about where the dogs or the cats should go during that open house or that showing, then that's a problem. You need to walk through those small little details. Because I had a house, sellers had 3 big, cute dogs, but their barks were ferocious, absolutely ferocious. There was no way that I could ever have any showings unless the homeowners came home and picked up the dogs and take them somewhere else, far away. Okay, but that was the one that I saw within days here in Smyrna. Okay, it can happen, but you just have to be organized. You have to know what to say to the seller to make it happen smoothly. And the communication, remember to ask your sellers, how do you want me to communicate with you? Text, phone, email. How often? Mr. Jerry that I had, client, didn't find out that he did not ever want to be communicated with after 7:00 p.m. And when I sent him a amendment to address concerns at 7:05, he was not a happy camper the next morning. Okay, so those little small details will just put dampers on things. It will be having you to kind of smooth things over, and really when you get your listing, you want things to go extremely smooth. So work through those kinks, work through those questions, work through those concerns during that listing appointment that you have. Okay, y'all are gonna do great. If you need any help, I'm here. I love doing CMAs, as you know. So if you need any help, I'm here for you. I can either walk you through over the phone, we can meet here in one of the conference rooms, but that, we're all here for you in this office.
What's your email?
My email is wwasley@kw.com. Everybody, it was a pleasure. Good luck. And again, if you need me, just holler.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Was the picture taken? Did I miss that?
So did you learn a lot?
I did.
You were so quiet over there.
I mean, I didn't want to, if you said it was
Nice side of the park.
Oh, you guys, I already did screenshots. Sorry. Should have told Wendy that.
And
Bye.
it was a lot of luxury.